Commissioners of the Hoover Emergency Management Communications District. Some people on this dais might not realize how many hats are happening. We have a roll call.
Mr. Reed?
Here.
Mrs. Wyatt?
Here.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mrs. Posey?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Smith?
Here. We have been provided copies of the minutes of the last meeting, which was held September 8th of 2015. Not a really regular group. There are three of us here who would have been at that meeting. So unless the other four have any questions, or the three of us that were here have any questions, I will take a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the minutes. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. We have resolution number 001-17. Mr. Corley. Well, God,
Yes, sir.
since we don't have an attorney, why don't you tell us about what this resolution does?
What, sir?
Yeah, you got to come too. Our attorney isn't here, so you're the next best one, since this was your project that you worked on. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about these funds, what they're going to be used for, how it is we come to get them, and maybe a little reminder about what we are obligating to over this amount should we be able to get it.
You talking about the 911 funding?
As we're in a special call meeting.
Yes, sir. That is just an agreement between us and the Alabama Next Generation Emergency Network. It's a percentage of the funding they collect from landline and wireless.
This is all mine.
Yes, sir. All now.
Okay.
That comes into our dispatch center.
And you and I spoke earlier, and all of this is going for salary and benefits, no capital,
That is correct, yes, sir.
no software.
So the city general fund supplement those fundings as well.
Okay. I guess I'm open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 001-17. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Or not the council, from the commission? Any questions from the commission? Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Unless anyone has any other business that would come before this commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Second.
Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. We're adjourned. Now we have 2 minutes to talk to your neighbors, get to know each other. Sorry, Mr. Corley, you missed the first meeting. We made good without you, so you can deduct this from your monthly pay.
I'm not dodging, I'm just putting it on. It's the same.
Yeah, about 3,000 you give for that. But that one is in It's nice to meet you. Welcome aboard.
You have to be nice first.
You don't want to see that.
Hey, Rusty, nice to meet you.
You know what's in the hot spot?
Hey, we got the zone.
Getting their phone stopped. There you go. Might as well start out live.
All right. We're going to now swap from being commissioners to council members. Hold the April 17th, 2017 Hoover City Council meeting. Welcome to those of you here and to those of you that are watching elsewhere. Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Green?
Here.
Mr. Lyda?
Here.
Councilmember Brooks?
Here.
Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Posey?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Here. We'd all please rise to start the communication and closing the leads and pledge.
Let us pray. Lord, thank you so much for such a beautiful Easter Sunday. May we strive to continue to live the joyful Easter message each day. Be with us as we begin a new week and help us to embrace both the joys and challenges that come our way. We pray for those in need of physical, mental, or spiritual healing, that they may be made whole again through your healing power. We are grateful for the gifts you bestow on us each day and for your loving mercy. Teach us to be merciful to those around us. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, everyone should have received a copy of the April 3rd work session and the April 3rd regular meeting and the April 13th work session. We open for motion.
President, I move for approval without reading. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. We have the reports section. First, Mayor, we have a proclamation for Parental Alienation Awareness Week. And we have Mr. Tim Holmes with the Exchange Club of Shelby County. Mr. Troy?
Whereas there are many children of divorced and separated Alabamians, whereas alienating behaviors are often found in high conflict divorce and custody situations, and whereas speaking negatively about a parent to or in front of that parent's child, interfering with communication and visitation rights a parent may possess through divorce or separation, and discussing inappropriate information with a child of divorced or separated parents can harm the bond between a loving parent and child, as well as cause a child's mental and emotional harm. And whereas parental alienation deprives children of their right to love and be loved by both parents and robs children of their sense of security. And whereas children should not be harmed and are entitled to the loving care of their parents. And whereas awareness brings education, understanding, and protection for innocent children suffering the effects of alienating behaviors and caught in the crossfire of the people that they love. And whereas in honor of Parental Alienation Prevention Week, show your support by taking 10 minutes out of your day at noon on Tuesday, April 25th, 2017, to blow soap bubbles for love. Each bubble we blow represents the love our children have and should be allowed to share with both their parents. Now therefore, I, Frank B. Burcato, Mayor of the City of Hoover, do hereby proclaim that within the bounds of law, children should not be alienated from their parents. I further proclaim the week of April 24th through April 30th, 2017 as Parental Alienation Awareness Week, and April 25th, 2017 as Parental Alienation Awareness Day in the City of Hoover.
Farrow, the City of Birmingham Exchange Club, Child Abuse Prevention Center, Exchange Club of Shelby, Alabama. I would like to thank the mayor and the city council for recognizing parenting alienations as a form of child abuse. We want to have this event, which is April 25th, that they read earlier. It's called the Bubble for Love. On this event, we would like everyone at home, at work, anywhere, by yourself, with your friends, or with your coworkers. We would like for you to take pictures or photos of your event of love blowing bubbles on that day, April 25th. You can send it to the city of Hoover, to that fair.org group, and just we want bubbles to flow, just like kids like to see bubbles flow freely between both parents. And we'd like to thank everyone today for acknowledgement in this population. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor, I understand you have a couple of employee recognitions.
Sir, we would like to continue our tradition of recognizing employees with milestones, number of years that they have here. Tonight, we want to recognize actually 3 employees, new employees. So first, I'd ask Chief Dursis to come down and introduce. Actually, he has a promotion tonight. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Mayor, Council, appreciate the opportunity. Want to introduce you to Julius Wainwright. Julius is newly promoted sergeant last month. He's been with us for approximately 6 years. Came from the Alabama Bureau of Pardons and Parole as a probation officer, worked there for 3 years. He is a University of Alabama Roll Tide graduate. Huh? Well, what do you mean,
Go Blazers, man.
Okay, go Blazers. I have to talk to my executive officer about giving wrong information, but,
Chief,
sorry about
we have
that.
a policy of probationary sergeants saying no to the chief.
Well, listen, he didn't go to Alabama, he went to the UAB, so I appreciate that. Julius has done a great job, and as a police chief, it is something that I really look forward to when you got guys and ladies that work very, very hard to see them get promoted and continue their career. So again, want to introduce him and very proud of him, and I don't think this will be his only promotion. So Julius, congratulations.
And I'd like for Executive Officer Rusty Lowe to come down and introduce our new employee with Hoover Fire Department.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Mr. Clay Bingham, one of the newest members of the Hoover Fire Department. He came to us from the Fairfield Fire Department, and he's assigned to Station 1 behind Green Valley Drug Store, our original fire station here in Hoover. He enjoys working out and being active in his church at Concord Baptist. One thing I will tell you, if you want to know any history of the city of Hoover, you can ask this young man, because one of our questions during our interviews is, tell us what you know about the Hoover Fire Department and the city of Hoover. Well, he knows a lot. He told us some things we didn't even know. So we welcome him aboard, and thank you.
Mayor, while we're getting sick of this, should we come up with a city policy says they should have to be able to shave first? next we have,
One more thing.
oh, we got one more, okay.
I think this is a pretty exciting night for us tonight because we are able to bring on someone for our city to a position that I think many of us talked about when we were running this last go-around. That's the position of a city planner, someone that could take our city from where we were the last 50 years, and we've grown into a wonderful city, the 6th largest city in the state of Alabama, a powerful retail engine, wonderful school system, homes that are outstanding, businesses that are wonderful and productive. And so we have a great opportunity now to look to the next 50 years. And under Bob House, who's done just an incredible job, who has so much knowledge about our city, such a wealth of knowledge, and just to be someone that has brought us to this point, we're very thankful to him. So now the next 50 years, Bob tells me he will not work 50 more years. So I'm happy to say that we, tonight, through a process that was very rigorous, we did I would consider a nationwide search for a city planner. And we had applications from all over the country. We had about 30 applications, as far away as Delaware, Massachusetts, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama. And we took these applications and thought, now how are we going to choose this individual? So we put together a group of individuals, a cross-section of the community. We had city staff involved. Councilman Mike Shaw was part of the selection committee. We had a citizen that is an engineer as well and has experience in this particular area. So I think it was a great group that looked over these applications. And I'm happy to say that tonight they chose Mr. Mac Martin, who was the city planner at Athens, Alabama. He is he's certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. He's president of the Alabama chapter of the Alabama Planning Association. He's on the advisory board chair of Auburn University's master's program in community planning. He is an outstanding individual that has a wealth of knowledge as well, and we're excited that he is going to be able to work alongside Bob and just to absorb some of the things that he has acquired over the years. And we're excited about what it means for the city. And each of you up here, we've all mentioned it many times in deliberations that we've had over growth or just a number of different things, how we want to look. We've talked about it with bus shelters. I mean, it affects every part of our city. We know that. Mac, stand up. Mac Martin, come up just a second if you would. Mac is, he's married to Andrea. She's a high school teacher. They have 2 children, Addie and Stella, 4 years old, and one, wow, you got some youngsters. They will be moving. Mac is on board, started today. He is going to move here. He's going to live in the city of Hoover, be a part of our city. We're very excited about it, and I'd like everyone to give Mac a warm Hoover welcome. And if you would, say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor, for that great introduction. It's really an honor for me to be here this evening, especially hearing on the back end about that rigorous process. I was certainly humbled by the crowd that I interviewed with. There's a lot of knowledge in that room and a lot of experience. And we had a great dialogue, great conversation over the 2 hours or so they skewered me. So it was a good experience, and I'm humbled and honored by the city of Athens considering me as their next city planner. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. Hoover. I'm sorry. Did I mention somebody else?
Maybe someone a little further forward.
I'm sorry. City of Hoover. I'm really honored and humbled by you guys accepting me in this role. I look forward to working with each and every one of you on this council, the mayor's office, city staff, and the residents of this community, and charting forward that vision for our next 50 years, and it's going to be an amazing 50 years. So looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Mac, I was fortunate enough to watch the first day's interviews. There was a gentleman that day that I think everybody decided that anybody after him was going to have to beat that other gentleman. So obviously, I wasn't there for yours, but obviously you must be head and shoulders, because I know how good the other guy was. So,
well, I appreciate that, and I'm going to do my best to strive to achieve and even go beyond the goals and the expectations you guys have set. So thank you for having me on board.
Amanda, does the library still do recorded books on the telephone that children can call into to listen to?
We actually have video now.
So he's got a great voice.
Mayor, you have anything else? All right, next we have the 2017 National Senior Games. We have Mr. Michael McGreevy here to speak to us about that.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this evening. This is my first Hoover City Council meeting. It's been a delight. A lot of good ribbery going on here. Anyways, my name is Michael McGreevy. I serve as the local organizing committee for the 2017 National Senior Games. And so I just appreciate everyone giving me an opportunity to come here and create a little bit of awareness for an exciting event coming to this community in June. 2017 National Senior Games presented by Humana is coming to the greater Birmingham area, including Hoover, June 2nd through the 15th this summer. We'll bring over 10,400 senior adult athletes to the area to compete in 19 sports across 15 venues over the 2 weeks. The National Senior Games Association is based in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and governs the biennial National Senior Games, which is the largest qualified multi-sport event in the world for seniors. So hosting this many athletes and their families will certainly be a fantastic opportunity for local businesses, hotels, restaurants, but creates a tremendous need for the community to support events like this by volunteering to help bring the event to life, and that's why I kind of came here tonight. Hoover's great reputation working with sporting events is one of the main reasons this event has come to this come to this area this summer, and we appreciate the Hoover community considering to volunteer in June. Again, we'll be out in the Hoover area using the Met Stadium complex for both archery and the 5,000-meter race walk. And for more information, people can log online, nsja.com/volunteer. And thank you so much for your time. And a special thank you to a few people already in the Hoover community who invest a lot of time. So Dee Nance, James Young, Michael Pepper, all of Hoover Parks and Rec. They've really shown us a lot of hospitality, a lot of time and energy to get the event to where it is today, and so I just wanted to especially thank those 3 individuals. So thank you guys so much.
Next, we have Ms. Linda Chastain with the Hoover Arts Alliance to talk about the Walk of Art at the Hoover Met.
Thank you for the opportunity to invite everyone to the Walk of Art. On May 5th and 6th, from 4 till 9, we're going to repurpose the Hoover Met, and we're going to make it an art center. In Hoover, we have not enough area for large art shows. This art show will have, be an arts and crafts show. It will have at least 35 to 40 different participants and vendors that will be there. Monty Jones at the Met has been so accommodating to us. And to have an event that can be handled in rain or shine, you've got to have an indoor venue. Well, we're going to be using the concourses at the Hoover Met, and our artists and craftspeople will set up their booths in the concourses. There will be food vendors, free parking, and you know you've got plenty of parking in the Met. There will be free admission. So we're just asking everyone, this is sponsored by the Hoover Arts Alliance, and we appreciate your support. The Central Alabama Artists Guild and Alpha Graphics. So we're going to be having fine art, pop art, crafts, which include pottery, yard art, jewelry, just almost anything you want to look for. This is right before Mother's Day, and we did that on purpose. And don't forget. We also, it's near graduation time. So we're inviting everybody in Hoover and the surrounding communities to come out and join us at the Walk for Art on May the 5th and 6th from 9 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Ms. Chastain has been one of several driving forces with the Hoover Art Alliance. If you're ever here at City Hall, if you look in the lobby, every month they have a different artist on display. And many of those arts are available for sale if you would like to contact them. Correct?
Yes, Judge. And that's all because of you.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Yes, you.
No.
Right.
All right, I still owe you the $20. Next, there was a long conversation about the Birmingham Jefferson Transit Authority on Thursday night at the work session. A lot of conversation, a lot of thought, a lot of possible future that does involve Hoover. And coming away from that meeting, I thought, and I believe the mayor agreed, that it would not be bad to have a member of the council to be liaison to Birmingham Jefferson Transit Authority, to help channel our questions and things like that, bring information back to us, in addition to Mr. Weinberg, who is on the board. And I would like to announce that Councilman Kurt Posey is going to hold that position. I want to thank him. Thank you, sir. Moving on, Resolution 5563-17, Mr. Corley.
This resolution authorizes Mayor Frank Mercado to execute a transit services agreement with the Birmingham Jefferson Transit Authority, substantially the form attached to the resolution as Exhibit A.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5563-17.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Corley, resolution 5564-17.
This resolution vacates certain right-of-way located between 2232 and 2236 Pine Lane. The petitioners for this vacation are Russell and Caroline Adams, and Philip and Mary Hawkins, the owners of the abutting or adjacent property. After vacation of this right-of-way, all public rights for this right-of-way are divested.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5564-17.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? This is an old streetway, I believe, that was never developed, or an alleyway perhaps. The owners on either side have requested that this vacation of this right-of-way, and there are no utilities involved, so we're happy to do it, to find out. Any questions from the audience? None from the council? All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Now we are going to have a public hearing to hear the comments from interested citizens concerning the proposed approval of the terms and conditions of a development agreement with the Comedy Club, Inc. This is to comply with an Amendment 772 hearing to the Constitution of Alabama. Mr. Corley, would you move this in the right direction?
Yes. This is resolution number 5565-17. Whereas prior resolution number 5471-16 provided for the payment of an economic incentive payment to the Comedy Club, Inc. to induce the Comedy Club to forego the relocation of its business from the city of Hoover to the city of Birmingham. Whereas resolution number 5471-16 was placed on the prior city council's meeting agenda on September 19, 2016, but was tabled to a future meeting. Whereas the prior city council did not revisit resolution number 5471-16 before leaving office. Whereas the Comedy Club's owner has requested this council to revisit this matter. This resolution authorizes Mayor Frank Mercado to execute a development agreement with the Comedy Club, Inc. and authorizes the validation of this agreement by the city attorney's office.
All right, this is a public hearing, so anyone from the audience who would like to speak to this? Anyone from the audience? If not, then I will take a motion for resolution 5565.
Mr. President, I move for approval of resolution 5565-17.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Once again, any comments or questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have change order number 1 for C.S. Beatty Construction regarding the Hoover RV lot expansion package. Yes, we will. Troy, do you have anything else? Then I'm open for a motion.
Mr. President, I move for approval of the change order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Mr. Schultz, come on down. Almost.
I'm Robin Schultz. I live at 348 Albemarle Drive, and I have some questions for Mr. Westhoven. You're overseeing this.
Mr. Schultz, you need to direct your questions.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. I have some questions regarding this change order.
We'll take care of it for you.
Okay,
Start on this direction.
gotcha. I have some questions regarding this.
Yes.
As in, we have $226,000 for some material to provide Wi-Fi for the RV lot. Is the way that I see it. Is that correct? Okay. This change order does not give specifics as to what they are. It gives Wi-Fi boxes 9 at $3,372 each, and poles. Looking over the Wi-Fi area, it's adjacent to the Finley Center. Exactly what will this Wi-Fi, how will this Wi-Fi be provided or sent to the RV lot? What does it do?
Mr. Westhoven, maybe you could help us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Smith. This provides Wi-Fi service for the RV park, the expanded park, and the existing portion that is remaining out there. It's a series of boxes, conduits, poles to mount the wireless access points to, there's some asphalt patching that had to be done because we actually expanded back and added some access points to the existing RV park. So that's basically what you have. As far as what the boxes are, I can't provide that info, but I'd be happy to try to get that information.
Is there any expansion or use of boxes within the Finley Center that would use the RV park?
Well, the Finley Center will have Wi-Fi also, so this is in addition to the Wi-Fi at the Finley Center. The RV park is somewhat more difficult to provide Wi-Fi for because you get those big RVs out there and it blocks the So you have to actually penetrate into the RV park. And this was designed by our Tech Links consultant that we have on board with the city.
Ms. Schultz, does that answer your question?
This particular change order was provided, is dated February the 20th, and we're now at April the 17th. So it's almost 2 months after it was provided, so it gives very little time to research the items. And with TechLink specifically, if they're the ones that designed it, they will have a very specific design on it. Is there a way that this can be tabled till it can be examined to see if it can be done more cost effectively?
Mr. Westover, one question that I do have is, obviously this work was known for quite some time that it was going to need to happen. Why is it so late in the process that it's coming to?
Well, as we worked through this process, as I said Thursday night, it was intention for us to do this work. And as we got closer and closer to our deadline for opening the RV park, it was determined that we really needed to turn it over to CSA to get the work done. So that's why we're where we are and why we're late in the ball game, actually.
And Mr. Schultz has asked, I don't know about any other members of the council, about whether or not we're under such a time constraint, whether or not there could be determined whether or not any adjustments could be made to save some tens of thousands of dollars.
It's y'all's decision. We're just 4 weeks from SEC baseball, 5 weeks basically, 4 weeks from opening up the Finley Center. And
Wi-Fi guaranteed.
Wi-Fi has been advertised, and we've had Wi-Fi at the RV park for years. I don't know if guaranteed is the right word, but I think expected is probably the appropriate term.
And yeah, here's Ben, he's not here tonight. Hey, you are, you can't create a hotspot out there with your laptop. I thought you could do anything.
No, sir, unfortunately.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
Mr. President, if I may. Mr. Westover and Mr. Powell, how confident are you in the price being quoted here as a fair price?
We have had Brashfield and Gorey, who is our construction managers, out there thoroughly vetting this process and trying to squeeze every dollar out of it that we can. We're very confident that we have the price where it needs to be.
I have one question. A lot of this is not technical, but it's tearing stuff up and putting it together again, concrete and conduit and things like that. So really, a lot of this isn't necessarily the tech link stuff. A lot of it is.
This is the infrastructure, basically, to accommodate the Wi-Fi apparatus.
I've had some informal discussions about what's going on there, but most of this seems to be unrelated to that.
Mr. President, Mr. Weston, so you're saying that these 9 additional boxes, the new conduit and everything are in addition to, is that because of the move of you're going to the new area to put this infrastructure in that was in the old area?
No, it is because it is the new area that we need those boxes and conduit. There were some areas in the existing RV park that we had issues with our Wi-Fi, so we're trying to take care of some of those areas. So there might be a little bit of a mix.
Is any charge in here, I see the markup and overhead at 15%, is any charge in here a rush fee because we're trying to hit this tournament?
There is, there's some rush in there. We lose a little bit of premium because we're getting down to the end.
And no wiggle room on negotiation with that?
I think it's been negotiated pretty doggone hard.
Thank you.
Don't know that exactly, Mr. Wang. I think it'll happen over the next couple of weeks. We have to have this installed. Actually, some of the conduit's already in, but the rest of it will happen over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll start pulling wire and fiber to it. So all that has to happen they won't miss the SEC tournament. It will be functioning. There's no just in case. They will be there.
No plan B.
No plan B. There's no plan B.
President said about healthcare.
How many RVs are we expecting?
170. We have 100 on the waiting list.
Mr. President,
Jim,
generic question I normally ask, Sarah, about putting conduit down. Do we have any additional ones we have allocated, so we don't have to worry about pigging?
We always put spares in there.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council? Mr. Schultz, do you have anything?
I had one more. The items that are on this particular change order, are any of them technical, or is this strictly all for the installation?
I understand your question correctly. It's infrastructure.
There is no technical?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Any other questions from the audience? Mr. Singer? Come on down.
Arnold Singer, 613 Riverhaven Place. Each of the RV parking spaces gets hooked up individually for water, for electrical, and sewer. Why wasn't this wiring provided to each of those connection points and done at the same time as the other work? It doesn't make sense that there are poles to raise it up as opposed to having that as part of the connection.
Mr. Westhoven, perhaps you can correct me if I'm wrong, but, Mr. Singer, I would guess that they would probably, after they got to a certain point, need to do testing of the site to determine where those dispatch points would need to be located. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. What we had was, we had an idea of what we thought would serve the RV park when we started, and then as we got into it, that our understanding did not match what really needed to happen out there. The element that kind of is different in this is the fact that you have massive vehicles that come in there and park and try to absorb that signal. So what we're understanding is that there has to be a Wi-Fi access point sitting out there virtually in between almost every one of them out there. And it became an issue. This money is accounted for in our program budget. One of the other things that I failed to mention is that, with a project of this magnitude, we have 4 different contractors at one point in time out there working. There's always coordination issues. And when you had the city of Hoover wanting to go out there to do stuff on our own, that's a 5th. And sometimes it's better to try to consolidate and get the product done, get the work product done. And that's kind of where we are.
Going a step further, it seems as though this is something that should have been part of the conceptual design by the architectural firm and in their detailed plans, how these signals were going to be distributed, and certainly not be waiting until a month or 2 before we have to go live. I realize there's nothing we can do now, but hopefully we've learned a few lessons as to the detail that needs to be looked at.
Thank you. Anything else from the audience? Anything else from the council? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Item number 10 is the motion to approve an ABC application for 140 Special Events Retail for Ragtime Cafe to allow the sale of alcohol in the parking lot of 2080 Valley Dale Road during their Ragtime Cafe 2017 Spring Fest to be held on April 29th, 2017.
Mr. President, I would move to approve the ABC application for Ragtime Cafe.
Second.
Motion and a second. Ms. Hanlon, did you receive everything back, correct?
They hold an application already, and it's just facts on that, so we don't have to do it.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item number 11 is going to be the second reading of ordinance number 17-2327. Mr. Corley.
This ordinance provides for the levying of municipal taxes for general and municipal purposes for the city of Hoover and for the assessment and collection of such taxes. For the tax year beginning October 1st, 2017, there is levied on all property, real and personal, and franchises within the city limits of Hoover and subject to taxation under the laws of the state, the general municipal tax of $3.05 on each $100 of the value of such property, which includes a special school tax at the rate of $2.40 on each $100 of the value of such property, which is 24 mills on each dollar of assessed value, as shown on the books of assessment of the county tax assessors of Jefferson and Shelby counties, the proceeds from which shall be used for public school purposes in the city pursuant to authorization granted in elections held in the city on May 8, 1990, May 12, 1998, and April 27, 2010, and a general city tax at the rate of 65 cents on each $100 of value of such property, which is 6.5 mils on each dollar of assessed value, as assessed for state and county taxes as shown on the books of assessment of the county tax assessors of Jefferson and Shelby counties, the proceeds of which shall be used for general municipal purposes of the city of Hoover. These taxes shall be assessed by the tax assessors and collected by tax collectors of Jefferson and Shelby counties. The fee for such assessments and collections shall be 1/2 of 1% of the taxes collected for and remitted to the city of Hoover. Tax collectors collecting and remitting on redemption of any taxes due to the city of Hoover shall receive 2.5% of such amounts as compensation therefor. The licensed commissioners of Jefferson and Shelby counties shall receive the amount fixed by law as compensation for issuing and collecting taxes on motor vehicles and automobiles.
All right, being a second reading, I will accept a motion for adoption.
Mr. President, I move for adoption of ordinance 17-2327.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Mr. Yeager, just for record purposes, there are no increases in current taxes nor any new taxes. Is that correct? All right, thank you, sir. Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? All in favor? Oh, we've got a roll call.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Leggett?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Ordinance passes. Mr. Murphy, I understand you'd like to say a few words before we bring up our next item. I'm sorry? It says just a first reading.
Okay. President, if I may, in regards to our annexation, and I understand this is the first reading, and I don't expect anything to occur on this particular one, but I did make some conversation within our committee meeting on how we're going to define moving forward with a property we're going to bring into the city. It does make sense to take certain void spots within your city footprint and make them city of Hoover in many instances to help out with fire and police and things of that nature. However, long term, that comes with growth, and growth is great, but understanding a process is, I believe, is something that we have to define what we're going to bring to the city. So definitely like to ask our chair of that committee to consider that when moving forward. And also be with every action that this council makes with growth. It also affects dynamics such as our schools and things of that nature. So with that also being said, it would also make sense to the school system understand how much growth we're planning to do in X number of years so they can properly prepare. So that is my major comment on, planning on how we're gonna define what annexation or what property is coming to the city, at what magnitude, when, where, how.
Mr. Murphy, I agree with that, and we had a conversation about, you're right, there is not a process that is set in stone, and we need to do that. So what I would like to do is, I'll ask the city clerk if we could set up a short work session with the members of that committee to start talking about that process. And Mr. Mayor, if we could add Mac into that as well, I'd really appreciate it, because moving forward, you are going to be a vital part of this process.
Very good. Item number 12 being the first reading of ordinance 17-2328.
The city has been requested by property owners Daniel and Teresa Browning to annex their property located at 2161 and 2169 Silver Spur Lane into the corporate limits of the city of Hoover. This ordinance provides for the annexation of property located at 2161 and 2169 Silver Spur Lane into the city limits of the city of Hoover.
All right, that is the first reading. The second reading will be May 1st, and we'll also have consideration for adoption. Item number 13, first reading of ordinance 17-2329.
The city has been requested by property owner David Havron to annex his property located at 2173 Silver Spur Lane into the corporate limits of the city of Hoover. This ordinance provides for the annexation of property located at 2173 Silver Spur Lane into the city limits of Hoover.
Once again, second reading and consideration for adoption will be Monday, May 1st. Corley, first reading, ordinance 17-2330.
The city has been requested by property owner Diane Robertson, to annex her property located at 720 Carl Raines Lake Road into the corporate limits of the city of Hoover. This ordinance provides for the annexation of property located at 720 Carl Raines Lake Road into the city limits of the city of Hoover.
Once again, consideration and second reading will be May 1st. Item number 15, first reading of ordinance 17-2331. Mr. Corley.
The city has been requested by property owner D. Bruce Irwin to annex his property located at 5410 Highway 280 into the corporate limits of the city of Hoover. This ordinance provides for the annexation of property located at 5410 Highway 280 into the city limits of the city of Hoover.
Once again, consideration and second reading on May 1st. Item number 16 is a public hearing to consider the request of Dave & Buster's of Alabama LLC. Conditional use approval for commercial, recreation, and amusement facilities for a Dave & Buster's Restaurant and Games location to be located at 2700 River Chase Galleria, space 2700. River Chase Land Acquisitions LLC is property owner, and the property is zoned PC Bank Commercial in the River Chase PUD. First, I would like to recognize that we have the general manager from the Galleria, Mr. Mike White. If you would stand up so we can recognize you. Thank you for being here, sir. All right. Now we'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move to approve the conditional use for commercial recreation amusement facilities for Dave & Buster's.
Second.
Any comments from the council? We also need to have this public hearing from the audience. Anybody from the audience here to speak to the subject? Yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm James Pittman.
Need to come on down, give us your name and address, so people at home can hear you.
I'm James Pittman. I'm an attorney in Baldwin County. I represent Dave & Buster's. I live in Spanish Fort. You all were kind enough to indulge a presentation by myself and Jill Balkovic, who flew in from Dallas at a work session. So just here tonight in case anyone had any questions.
You're gonna stay in a Hoover hotel tonight.
I wish. I'm being named at 9, so I gotta drive back tonight.
Any questions from the council? Any from the audience? I think this is a little bit of a special vote. Mr. Shaw, would you mind it being a roll call?
I have no objection.
Wait a second.
All right.
All right, all right. I would say something. Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Mr. Green? Mr. Lynette?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. You can go home and tell your client that they can dig a little faster. Looking forward to being.
They're looking forward to being here too. Thank you all for your time.
Next, we have a public hearing to consider request of Trenton Turner representing Turner Foods for conditional use approval for the sale of alcohol at 1,000 RV Trace, the Convention Center, located at the Hoover Metropolitan Stadium. Property is zoned C2 Commercial Business District and is owned by the city of Hoover. Mr. Boyd, do you have anything to add? All right, let's have the public hearing section first. Anyone have anything to say? Anybody from the audience who would like to speak to this? If not, then we will entertain a motion.
President, I move for approval of conditional use for Turner Food Systems.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. I think, Tammy, this was the one I was probably talking about earlier. We have received all the information needed.
That's the next item.
But it is received. All right. Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Next, we have a motion to approve the ABC application for Turner Food Systems LLC.
President, I would move to approve the ABC application for Turner Food Systems.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from the council? Any from the audience? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Public hearing to consider the request for Zena Pruitt, trustee of J.G. Noto Property Trust, to rezone property located at 3219 Warner Road from C1 Neighborhood Shopping District to C2 Community Business District. Zena Pruitt, trustee of the J.G. Noto Property Trust, is the property owner. Anyone would like to speak to this? I believe this is the Hoover Mart on Warner Road. Any questions from the council, from the audience? That,
Mr. President?
yes, sir. I guess we probably should. Second reading of the ordinance.
This ordinance rezones the property located at 3219 Warner Road, owned by J.G. Noto Property Trust from C1 Neighborhood Shopping District to C2 Community Business District.
All right,
Mr. President, I would move to, motion.
yes, sir.
Mr. President, I would move to approve the rezoning of 3219 Warner Road.
Okay, this would need to be an adoption.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I move we adopt ordinance 17-2326.
Second.
That's right, Mr. Shaw, it took me about 10 years to get used to it. Madam Clerk, roll call vote.
Mr. Green?
Aye.
Mr. Lynette?
Aye.
Dr. Middlebrooks?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. Shaw?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye. Next, we're going to set public hearings for Monday, May 15th at 6 p.m. to consider the following requests, which come with a positive recommendation from the planning and zoning. A, Little Donkey 280 LLC is requesting conditional use approval for the sale of restaurant retail liquor at Little Donkey, located at 5363 Highway 280 South, Suite B100. Bizarre 280 LLC is the property owner, and the property is zoned PC Plan Commercial. Item B is L. Nick Davis, Mama G's Inc., requesting conditional use approval for the sale of on-premise beer and wine at Mama Goldberg's Deli, to be located at 210 Doug Baker Boulevard, Suite 200, inside the Village of Lee Branch. Beer Lee Branch Inc. is the property owner, and the property is zoned C2 Commercial Business District. Item C, Occasions Inc., DBA Swaree Event Gallery is requesting conditional use approval for live entertainment at weddings, corporate, birthday, and other parties to be held at Swaree Event Gallery located at 2132 Warner Ridge Lane, Unit 10. Imperial Holdings Inc. is the property owner, and the property is zoned C4 Commercial District. Once again, all these will receive public hearings May 15th. Mr. Lyder, payment of the bills.
I've reviewed them, and I recommend they be paid in full.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed nay. The ayes have it. Comments and questions? Council.
Mr. President, Mr. Rice, I spend a great deal of time online, probably more than my wife would like me to, but I've read a lot about some improvements coming to Star Lake. Could you fill everyone in about that?
Perhaps the mayor?
I'm not sure what you said.
Yes. Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. We, that's probably the oldest park in Hoover, Star Lake. Used to be a fish there as a youngster.
Walked across the ice.
Walked across the ice skated on it, all of those things. So we do have a plan. We had about $50,000 set aside to do some improvements to it, pretty it up a bit. But we're going to resurrect a plan that's a number of years old to do some things like build a minimum 8-foot sidewalk or pedestrian walkway around the lake. We're going to probably look at developing a traffic flow where it will be one way with some traffic calming and just add additional parking with some landscaping. Develop a lighting plan for the public space area there. Construct wetland areas. Then food trucks are a really big deal now. So we want to incorporate that. That's an older plan before food trucks were invented, I think. But we want to incorporate that in the plan as well. So we're going to take that $53,000 and probably come back to you with a drawn-out plan for you to look at and with a budget. And then after that, we'd like to take that to the community and let them look at it, see exactly what they like about it, what they want to improve, add, what they want to take away. But many of the things that we've talked about there are actually the things that we're hearing from the community. So we're pretty excited about this, to take this and make it an absolute very nice park for the community, but particularly those that live around the lake as well. So be looking for that in the next 30 days.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure that there's a gentleman in the back that would love to see a plan like that in Bluff Park. Just put that plug in there in the near future.
Any other questions from the council?
With that in mind, Councilman Posey brought up Bluff Park. Mr. Rice, can you speak on where do we stand on the public restrooms up in Bluff Park?
I was prescient and I knew you were going to ask that question. That is a project that we committed to the council that we would pursue the most cost-effective manner possible. And so we're in the process of bundling, or evaluating rather, several of our capital improvement projects that you were gracious enough to approve in this current budget, and determining which of those should be bundled for maybe some external project management, which of those we're going to manage internally, so that we can achieve those things in a timely manner. So the primary goal is to figure out if we can get cost-effective access to the existing restrooms at the Bluff Park Community Center. If that's cost prohibitive, then we'll be probably compelled to build a standalone restroom facility. You've given us enough money to do the second option, but we want to see if we can do the first option. So we've got a meeting Thursday, an internal meeting on Thursday to work through all of our capital projects, prioritize them, determine how they're going to be managed, and I think a timeline will result from that. Thank you.
Mr. Rice, while you're there, talk a little bit about Hazardous Waste Day.
That's why I came. Thank you. Household Hazardous Waste Day, Mr. President, by way of reminders, this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 8 to 12. We need to show a driver's license or some form of identification as a Hoover resident. Many of our residents take robust advantage of this opportunity every year. It's a chance to clean out the basement, clean out the garage, and take all the things that we really don't want going into a traditional landfill, paint, batteries, any type of hazardous, ammunition, things like that, that we just shouldn't put in traditional trash collection. Bring it down to the Hoover Met parking lot. There's an extremely well-developed process there. We'll move you through very quickly, relieve you of those items, and get you on your way to enjoy your Saturday.
Are you still volunteering to pick up anything people can't get down?
Sure, Mr. Smith, I'd be happy to volunteer. Volunteered or voluntold, one of those.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mayor, I think this is our last official meeting before the birthday party. Maybe you'd like to speak a little bit about it. We're getting a lot of time in tonight.
Well, I mean, we've got a great celebration planned, Veterans Park. We will have face painting and fancy old cars and big pie to eat, recognition of our veterans. We'll kick it off as it has done in the past. So we want to invite everyone out 11 to 3 on 10 to 3. And it will be a great celebration. We're looking forward to it. Hope you're there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Any other questions from the council? Any from the audience? Singer?
Arnold, Singer, 613 Riverhaven Place. On April 14th, Councilman Posey posted a question about annexation, and it had yea and it had nay. I felt there was something a little extra that was needed, so thank you for the ability to add an option where I put down delay all annexation until after a new master plan. The public needs to be heard. The result of this informal vote was 70 for delay, 51 yea, and 2 nay. As I took a look at the applications that were introduced today, I realized that there's a tremendous misunderstanding about the police powers that Hoover has, which may or may not be exercised. Part of police powers is defined for a community of over 6,000 as 3 miles from the corporate limits. I don't know whether it's a dynamic process, whether we actually have declared those boundaries. If not, when was the last time that we did it? What revenues do we collect? Now, the main reason for getting involved with police powers is to be able to provide emergency fire service to those areas that are not part of any city, that are part of an unincorporated county. Now, we've heard in the past that there are some properties that are paying their fire dues. I've never seen a map showing where these police jurisdictions are, what acreage is involved, what revenues these are receiving. I've never seen anything with regard to properties. With regard to how far they are from fire hydrants, to the effect that this would have, any particular annexation would have, with regard to our insurance service office rating. Currently we're at 2, we're looking forward to a 1, but I hate to see some annexations take place that might imperil that in the future. So I think this is an area that has to be looked at. I think it might be a good idea to have a work session devoted to this particular subject. And I'm really very, very happy to see that the planner is on board, and we've got a heck of a tag team match here. And I think we all need to be able to have the input. You know, it was just a few years ago that there were 2 and 3 people who attended Board of Education meetings. Now there are lots of people who attend those meetings. There are lots of people who attend here. There's much more interest. Is that we've lost the apathy that existed before. We are a great community, about to get even greater. And please, let us get involved. And at some particular point, and I'm suggesting now, is the time to put a temporary hold on annexations until we are well into the master plan process and have come up with recommendations along that line.
To try to answer a couple of your questions, Dr. Lopez, Mr. Lopez. Do we receive any funds from businesses outside the city?
Yes, we do.
In what form are those?
Sales and use tax and business license.
Okay.
It's half a police jurisdiction has half a business license rate. Sales tax, use tax also has half a rate.
What is the city's obligation after accepting those funds?
I'd have to defer that to our legal team because that involves a little bit more as far as the amounts and what is due in addition to that. I believe that they do have police and fire protection also. However, I still defer that to our legal department.
Mr. Roy?
Yeah, we get you some answers on all of those questions.
All right, perhaps next meeting. Thank you. XO, I know with integrated dispatch now, being able to understand what is in the city and out of the city is fairly plain. I would figure that, especially with these 150 some odd homes that we have that are surrounded by Hoover, yet are not in Hoover, I would probably go to get somebody on scene, but then you give it to the county to work after that, if they are out of the city.
If it is, yes, sir, if it is out of the city, we defer to the correct jurisdictions. Our dispatch center will be able to tell whether it's within the city limits or the police jurisdictions.
XO Low. Fire department does charge fire dues, I know, to these properties that are surrounded by the cities. And I believe the fire department become obligated in any way for the Shannon Fire District for dues paying members, or?
We have quite a few people in the Shannon Fire District that used to be the fire district that do pay fire dues to the city that we respond to. Yes.
What about businesses that are outside the city, we provided them fire service?
Yes, sir, they have the option for that. Fire dues are currently for residents, Dr. Lopez, $350 and then $700 for a business.
So that's a partial answer at least for tonight. Hopefully, next meeting we'll have complete answers for your questions, and it's up to the council about whether or not we want to create a moratorium. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I think that we all deserve some discussion, as well as input from the mayor's office. Anything else from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Go around. Right, a new face. Oh, no. Your name is just please.
My name's Teresa Browning, 2169 Silver Spur Lane. I'm one of the ones on the agenda to be annexed. I was told that I would be able to speak at this meeting, give a presentation, and then it would just move right through. So I'd like the opportunity right now to speak to y'all. If that's all right?
Public comment section. So yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great.
Now, if I move right through, what are your expectations?
I thought I would have the I was told I could speak on my behalf, a presentation, so I'd like to do that. Okay, so I have a map, it's the Ross Bridge Master Plan, and it shows the unincorporated island right in the middle of it. The shaded part is our property. So I have a little history, I tried to condense it, but mainly, a few of you on the previous council know some of this, not all of it. The new councilmen don't know any of it, so I'd like to give you a history of us trying to apply for annexation. This is nothing new. We've tried for 11 years to be annexed. So right now, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to give some history. In 2002, the day that we broke ground on building our home, we read in the Birmingham News that Hoover was moving to annex the property adjacent to us for the Ross Bridge PUD. We knew then, before we started a family, that we wanted to be a part of Hoover at that time. In 2006, when the first people began to move into Ross Bridge, we submitted our first application for annexation. Until that time, there weren't many Hoover services being brought into this area except to the Ross Bridge Renaissance Hotel. We thought that it was the right time to apply, and we also had a daughter who was not quite 2 at the time, which we had considered her education since the day she was born. We knew we wanted her to be educated in the city of Hoover. In 2012, Ashby Apartments at Ross Bridge was being developed on our side of the Parkway. So you can see all that on the map, you know, where we're located. Also at that time, in 2012, we received a letter from the Hoover Fire Department inquiring if we wanted to pay for fire protection from the city of Hoover since we were in its police jurisdiction. We thought it was a good time to apply for annexation again. Finally, in May of 2013, the first annexation meeting since we had been applying was held. And that's thanks to Gene Smith. He started holding meetings. They weren't held before. So we applied all this time, but they just weren't meeting. We were moved to a first reading of the city council meeting. At that council meeting, our reading was removed from the agenda because it was determined that we were not close enough to a fire hydrant for adequate fire protection. Excuse me. However, we had already paid for previous fire protection. In October of 2013, we had a fire hydrant installed, and we reapplied for annexation. We were ultimately denied in July of 2014. So we almost went through an 18-month period from the time that we reapplied, when they first started having meetings, till July of 2014. But we're not even sure why we were ever denied. There was no explanation, and I don't suppose there has to be, but we still don't know why, ultimately.
Brandon, could I ask you a question real quick?
Yes.
What type of hydrant did you have installed? Was it a 1-quart hydrant or a 3-quart hydrant?
I'm not really sure. Chief Wingate was the one that came out and gave us the advice on what we needed, and we counseled with him and the Birmingham Waterworks. They, I mean, y'all are not, but.
Regular hydrant?
Okay, so for those of you, that sounds like y'all may have to make some decisions here, but if you move forward with this and you're not quite sure if you're going to vote yes, I really want you to consider our long history of trying to become a part of the city of Hoover. And ultimately, we would like to have the amenities that Hoover offers other than just paying for fire protection. And I know when you look at that, where we're located, I understand where you don't want to annex beyond the boundary of Hoover. But we're in an area that is completely surrounded by Hoover. We're in the middle of it. So I want you to take that into consideration when you're relooking at this. So with our history, does anybody have any questions?
Mr. President.
Nothing else?
Ms. Browning, I drove out to Silver Spur today. Just to clarify, are you the back property that has private property, do not trespass that your home?
No,
The very
that,
back?
you have to pass that person's house to get to us. So you couldn't go all the way to our home because we have a gate.
Mr. President, Ms. Browning, when, there's a lot around you that was annexed at one time, why did no one approach anyone in Silver Spur about annexing at the time when they took all of this in? Do you know why that happened?
You know, that's a really good question, and we've been coming to meetings for a really long time, and we came to all of those during the time that they were annexing the property and going through trying to get the planning zoning approval for the PUD for Ross Bridge. We were told at the time that there would probably be some, what they called cleanup annexation, and then it just never happened. So, I guess they just weren't annexing anything at the time.
Is there anything, any minutes or anything we would have on that motion as to why that square was left out?
That was back in the.
Why that?
Yes, sir.
As Ms. Browning inferred, the city-owned annexed property owned by U.S. Steel, who was the developer, the property owner on Medina Realty of Ross Bridge. So they did not entertain any other annexation petitions other than the one petition for Ross Bridge, which is owned by U.S. Steel.
Browning, how many acres do you have?
I think it's 6.9 total. It's two parcels, and ours is almost on 5, where our house is located.
Have you given any thought to rezoning prior to an annexation vote?
Well, we discussed this last time, and that's not an issue, but I guess it depends on what you're looking to change the zoning to, and whether or not we meet that criteria.
Well, I know that some of the discussion a few years back had to do with whether or not you may decide to subdivide in the future.
Correct.
By going through a pre-zoning and establishing an estate lot, I guess, Mr. House.
If we meet the criteria of the estate lot.
Mr. House, you would.
Okay.
1 acre lot.
Okay, I thought there was square footage involved in that.
Meet the criteria for the minimum lot area, possibly not the setbacks and possibly not the minimum dwelling size, but those would just be handled as non-conforming uses. What the city would be concerned about is the degree to which you could subdivide the property in the future. Also, Silver Spur Lane is not something that we would allow enormous subdivision on because it is substandard. So fire departments have there be some limitations on her property because it's in the back. Other property that fronts Silver Spur, that fronts Melton Road, different matter. We had 2 zonings that require a minimum lot of 1 acre, that'd be either agriculture or evil.
Dr. Middlebrooks brought up the signs about no trespassing. How serious is your neighbor about that? Does the fire department?
Well, he puts the sign up there because people drive back there all the time, they're curious what's back there. And it keeps people from coming back there. I mean, he's had his house broken into.
And you mentioned the gate. How would the fire department be able to access?
Bolt cutters, we discussed this in the past as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Just make sure everybody knows.
Mr. President, may I ask a question or two?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Browning, just to clean up your statement a little bit, you said that we are surrounded by the city of Hoover.
Well.
You're not.
That's correct.
Okay, but I guess you're talking collective sense, we, the property owners that make up, and how many property owners are in there?
I believe there's 9, maybe.
Okay, so your property is not surrounded by it.
That's correct. The whole island is in the middle of Hoover. So we can't get annexed ever if you don't annex the person behind us. We're forever in unincorporated Jefferson County.
Mr. House used a good term there, non-conforming. I've been to your property.
Right.
I know you invited me out, and I appreciate that. It's been several years ago.
there are other parts to this property that are non-conforming. The fire department's had issues with the turnaround access, I believe, Mr. Lowe, with that.
It's difficult, we can make.
The driveway's not paved, is that correct?
That there's other driveways in the city of Hoover that are not paved either.
My point is, there's several non-conforming parts to this property that just are not in keeping with the Hoover standards. That's not to say we couldn't get them there, but,
Well, I mean, if we pave our drive, if we get a fire hydrant, if we cut the trees, if we pave the drive.
I don't know that I have a collective list of that, Ms. Browning. I'm just saying that there's
Well, I
considerable
understand. It
non-conforming.
just seems like the target, since the beginning, keeps moving. It's something else. I'm not sure why the drive's an issue. We pay for fire protection now. It's not an issue for them to come down if we need to. Why should it remain an issue?
My point is that there's multiple non-conforming parts to your property. I'm not disputing your property by any means. I know you're very proud of it. You and your husband built it with your own hands. It's just, the property is not in keeping with what we require Hoover lots and parcels to be.
Mr. President, if I could add to that, I was at the property over the weekend as well, and I did notice the no trespassing sign. I didn't know where the property ended, so I guess that's my question is, certainly when you say non-conforming or substandard or whatever, it implies that they're not nice houses or whatever, and they are nice houses, but when you're in the county, you have certain freedoms that you don't have when you're in the city. Has there been any consideration to do any improvements to that road, so it's more like a city road and less like a gravel road, or,
Well, it's a driveway.
yeah, but if you say it goes past, so the driveway is for both your neighbor and yourself.
That's correct.
Then I'm planning,
That driveway, that piece of property from where the pavement ends, we own that, so we own the drive. The neighbor uses our driveway to access his property.
I know I'm planning and zoning, just in my limited time there, I know we usually have discussion about access and paved access to when we annex things in, or when we rezone things or something. So I guess that would be my concern, is that if seeing an effort to make that more like a city road, for access to all those lots, just being out there, it seems like, again, the no trespassing zone, it blurs the lines of what, we just have this kind of chunk of property that's out there, and we're annexing the whole thing in. So that was just my thought, is if there was some improvement as to where it's more like a city road instead of some gravel roads that kind of cover.
Okay, to clarify that, you mean removing the no trespassing signs? Or do you mean paving the whole entire drive?
Making so that access to the two lots, or any other lots that subsequently petition to be annexed, is more like a city access, more like we would look like if we were rezoning, or somebody was building a house in property that was being rezoned, R1 or R2.
Mr. President, if I can just make a quick follow-up. That's why I believe a process is ideal, because as a homeowner, you can be frustrated with not having a clear defined process, and then when you do X, then that's not good enough to a certain approach. But when you have a process, you know, hey, this is what the standards are for all property. I think we look at all of Hoover, at certain points, properties may have not had certain things, code or things that need to be done to it, but they were eventually put into the city. So I think process is such key denominator in order to try to move forward with annexation of property throughout our city. Because on both sides, council has questions, and then on the other side, homeowners have questions, and that's confusing, and we gotta clean that up.
Mr. House, this property is contiguous to the city of Hoover on one side, correct?
Yes.
And if they were to pave this road, is it gonna pass any structure that is gonna be too close to that structure, that the setbacks?
I don't know, or whether you require a city street to be constructed, that setbacks would apply. If you're just required to pave the driveway, that setbacks would not apply.
Are any of the properties that are requesting annexation, not just the Browning property, but the others, do they have proper access for a flag lot driveway?
They have a driveway. The other property is right there on Silver Spur. The Browning property is the most problematic with regard to access because it goes down, takes a hard turn, and then runs along that flag back to their home. This is a miniature version of Hoover River Estates, if some of y'all remember that, Hoover River Estates, where the city annexed a large subdivision that most of it was substandard with regard to roads and access. They did upgrade the fire protection by virtue of hydrants and water lines. The agreement we had there was no further subdivision and his infrastructure comes up to standard. So the issues, some of the issues you've been discussing here about improving access is usually addressed at the time when they want to subdivide. Decide whether or not you want to annex it as is, and then put conditions on a few further subdivision of the property with regard to code compliance.
I believe you had mentioned there's a structure beyond yours, there's a house beyond yours.
As you're coming down our driveway, there's one before you get to our property.
But not beyond.
No, we have two buildings, you know, a home and a garage on our property.
Attached garage.
Correct.
And, can I ask for clarification? Is Silver Spur Lane, is it up to standard?
No.
So the whole road, Silver, okay. Then, Councilman Lyda and Councilman Shaw, y'all's questions as far as substandard access to the property, and referring to the roadway, are you referring to Silver Spur, or are you also including her driveway?
Maybe if I could throw this in real quick, I can move on. Is Silver Spur a dedicated street?
I don't know. It's in Jefferson County, I'm not sure what the status of the right of way is.
Ms. Browning, would you happen to know?
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Dedicated street where, the county has accepted that it is a street and not a driveway.
Oh, no, the whole.
The county named it, did y'all name it?
No, the county named it, and
Okay.
the portion that is paved is a county street, and they come and cut the right of way as well, until they get to the gravel drive.
Okay, so it's a dead-end street, so to speak.
That ends into our property.
Mr. President, if I may, before we get too far away from the.
Wait, I'm sorry, Councilman Post, could I get an answer to my first question?
Can you restate your question, please?
Are y'all considering just Silver Spur Lane substandard, or are you including her driveway? Do you want that brought up to?
My point is that it's not clear where that begins and ends. You have a piece of property. I know that if this was already in Hoover and we were zoning at R1, there'd be requirements before we would do that to the lots. In fact, we just had some, I think on Strollaway, we had very similar things that come up where we had to make sure that before they agreed to rezone it, we would, well, we're annexing, that's more serious business than rezoning. So, you know, these are the kind of questions that 10 years from now, somebody comes up and says, why in the heck did they do that? We want to make sure that we answer them now while we can.
And that was more to what I was gonna ask. You mentioned that when Hoover River Estates was brought into Hoover, there was a statement made that we were not going to annex property with those same road standards. Is that in writing somewhere? And is that a hard and fast rule that, like Derek's talking about, we have that in writing saying this is a rule that we point to?
I think it was in the annexation ordinance, possibly zoning, or it was, I think, memorialized in one of the ordinances passed by the city council. No further subdivision until the relevant public infrastructure is upgraded to city specs. Of River Estates. No.
Mac, you've been here about 12 hours.
What do you think?
I need a little more research.
Those are the kind of things that I think we're going to need to see in minutes when we sit down and have a work session to try to come up with these rules and regulations that Derek's talking about. Otherwise, it's one of those things where, well, it was said way back then, but was it written down and brought into an ordinance or a resolution that we can point to?
I understand. Mac, that was kind of rhetorical, it's not very, we haven't quite yet, but I can understand. Mr. Browning?
I'll take it.
David, okay.
Silver Spur Lake is it too, right?
Perhaps if you come up and give your name and address.
Reverend 2173 Silver Spur Lane. I'm the first house that you come to. Silver Spur Lane is a two-lane county road in front of my house. Elton Road is a two-lane road beside my house.
Is it wide enough to accept as vehicles going this way?
Hoover has a fire hydrant on the corner of the property, Silver Spur, and
Hoover installed it, or did y'all have?
it was already there, but Hoover comes by.
Okay, so there was a, I guess they had, a fire department requested that another hydrant be installed closer.
For the,
Okay. All right. Anything else?
really, I kind of did on the same thing she said. I was at all the meetings and was told all along that all I had to do was request for annexation. I did apply a petition years ago, and to be polite, I was told it's basically a short, which when voted on, I was going to give the reason. The other question is we're not technically surrounded my property by Hoover, but there is no other city around me. There is no other community for me to be a part of. And I think that was brought up all along, that this little group can never be a part of any city or community unless we're a part of Hoover. That's the only choice we have. So if y'all don't annex us in, we're gonna always be in Jefferson County, that's it.
Are you contiguous right now to any portion of Hoover?
The whole front of my property is on the side of my property. And another question that's brought up once before is, why did I want to be annexed to Hoover? Best answer I can come up, same reason you guys do. Everybody got any questions?
One quick one.
Yes, sir.
So this is another example. You have this, the garage that's right up next to the road, correct? Is that yours? Because this is a great example where nothing wrong with that in the county. That's a freedom reigns in the county, and in the city we have different standards with regard to that. Now certainly there are non-conforming things out there, but if you sit through zoning adjustments, you hear a lot of things where they're talking about 5 feet, 2 feet, 1 foot differences. So these are the kind of things you look at when you're bringing property in. You start seeing a lot of non-conforming things stack up. It's like, well, is this really city style property? And there's nothing wrong with your garage. It's actually pretty cool.
Well, but it's a process to attempt.
Okay, well, there you go.
Any other questions or comments? Anything else from the public? Mr. Posey, as to your thoughts about a special work session or an extended work session, I think you probably could work with city staff to get everything ready, documentary-wise, thought-wise, between city planner, Mr. House, mayor's office, and city attorneys, where we could have a productive meeting, and we can do that within 7 days of you're saying that you're ready, so.
Mr. President, my thought would be to take it to the committee and come to the full council with suggestions and a statement.
All right, well, I'm sure everybody's ready to work together. Mr. Green's been kicking my shin for about 20 minutes now. Says he's hungry. But I'm making him earn every time he makes it. If we don't have anything else, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move for adjournment.
Second. Second, everybody in favor, stand up.